Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2 of the Pleasure Alchemy podcast. I'm super stoked for you all to be here and joining us in this revolution of this space and container that we're creating. Both me and Samantha took a little break, and I feel so excited to be here again with you, Samantha.
Yes, welcome everyone. We're so happy to be back, and we're so grateful that you're joining us in this second rendition of this beautiful container that Janessa just spoke to. We want to share about what we've been up to in this time of what feels like reckoning and rebirth, and mainly what we're going to be centering our discussion around is the topic of integrity, because that has felt very, very alive for both Janessa and myself.
Yes, yeah. I took a much needed social media break, and I feel so much more centered, so much more in tune with my inner guidance system. And that's just one piece I'll be sharing. And there's lots of segues I feel like we could go and share about, but it's very interesting and synchronistic that both you and I, Samantha, have been in this deep integration phase of really looking at integrity in relationship, business, and just how we move and embody ourselves on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, this energy of integrity has been so loud and alive. I feel like for both of us in different manifestations and forms. What really sparked this for me was I felt this undercurrent that something was out of alignment within myself, within my environment, my life. And I knew that pieces of me were out of integrity. And then I heard of this book by Martha Beck called The Way of Integrity, which, if there was a Bible, I would really feel like this is the Bible, in the sense that it's just such a beautiful roadmap, and it uses Dante, the Divine Comedy, as a roadmap, and it's a way towards self realization, enlightenment, if you will. And that really is just enlightenment to me, is awakening, remembering, and embodying your soul's truth, and really being in integrity. So integrity is just all of you is working together. Like if a plane is, parts of the plane are missing, it's not in integrity. You don't want to get on that plane. She uses this analogy, and the more that we stray further and further from our truth, from our soul, the more that we feel sick, we feel depressed, anxious, our relationships suffer. And I was, this Martha Beck, she's a brilliant, brilliant human being. She was putting into words everything that I was really deeply feeling inside my body. And I seeing that reflected in my life. And, the fears, the fears and the stories that we tell ourselves that kind of stray us off of our path. And those can feel very alive and real. However, the more that we give them our power and make choices that are from a place of fear, the more and more we become internally divided and sick as a result. So I've been really passionate about this subject, and just really trying, one baby steps ultimately, because sometimes it can be really harsh on our nervous system to kind of just radically, let go of everything. And so I really like gentle trauma release and things that are easy to integrate. So, taking, if you see, if you have that awareness that something is out of alignment in your life, whether it's with money, your relationships, with maybe telling small white lies, either to yourself or someone else, like all of those end up hurting us ultimately, no one else. So, and this is coming into right relationship with with oneself. And that's really this wave that I've been riding. And it's hard to look at yourself really truthfully at times. And but again, I always talk about compassion, because that's really the energy that will create safety to help transform whatever you're struggling with. And
Yes.
Janessa, I'm curious because you were in Bali with your partner, your previous partner now, and you felt in your body. I'm really proud of you, and I would love to hear more about this, but you felt that something wasn't in alignment, in integrity. And I just love how you were so courageously like really listening and honoring yourself. It's hard to do, and you are a beautiful, beautiful example of that. So I would love to hear if that feels like something you would like to share.
Yes, I would love to share. And then also too, I would love to hear your experience with what was out of integrity for you and how that was showing up. But yes, I can definitely share. So what were we gonna say?
Well, we'll cycle back.
We'll cycle back. So I think I love being in partnership. I love being in relationships so much so that I can choose to relate to somebody with the fantasy holding me so tight, the fantasy of wanting to be in love, of wanting a partnership, wanting this conscious creation together, that I can turn a blind eye to what is not in alignment and instead tell myself, oh, well, things aren't always supposed to be perfect, or not perfect, but it's okay for certain things to be out of alignment, even though they're like really big things, or just not paying attention to how my body was feeling with this person, not paying attention to the subtle ways in which I was making myself small, or just talking myself out of what my body was telling me, essentially. And for the sake of this dream, this deep desire that I want, which is being in a loving partnership with somebody. And I think because I was trying so hard to fit myself into that fantasy, that it fell out of integrity, and it was manifesting in my body as anxiousness, as, like I said before, like dimming myself, like making myself small, of just being avoidant in some ways too, like anxious, but then also avoidant, because I felt, because I wasn't being in integrity with myself, I was like pushing him away, because deep down I was upset with myself. I didn't trust myself because I wasn't following through on what wasn't working. And so I started to share very vulnerably on this trip exactly what was happening within my body, and being so radically honest with my partner. And it wasn't easy. Like it took me a while to get to this place where I felt deep down that it was necessary in order for both of us to transition into a way of relating that actually served both of us and our highest alignment. So I feel blessed that he is so open and receptive to hearing me and where I'm at, even if it means that the love between us will change. I feel that because we have that deep understanding of unconditional love and acceptance, that we support each other in whatever ways don't align or that do align. And we had some really deep and honest conversations for, I'd say, 2 months. Like the conversations were happening before we traveled, and then when we traveled, a lot of things were illuminated and were brought to my attention very clearly that something needed to change. And I decided to step out of partnership with him. And it's been, honestly, I would say, the most graceful process that I've had, like separating from somebody, because there is like so much love there. Like it feels very supported and not this like hard breakup or cord cutting. It's like there's still so much love. And because I'm able to see and witness that, like I can acknowledge like, wow, I have grown so much. And I hope every relationship I have can be in that energy of just always having unconditional love and compassion, no matter how much it changes or shifts. And yeah, I think I feel complete on that share.
I really commend you, for listening, to really honor yourself, that, that still small voice that was saying something is slightly off, your body and the ways that it was speaking to you. And yeah, because of that storyline can feel so real, our desire to want to love and be loved and to have this like
Mm-hmm.
kind of fairy tale life and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people aren't honest with themselves. They bypass their emotions. They're kind of, what's that word? It's kind of like when someone bypasses what you're saying and then turns it around on you. I'm forgetting the word right now. Yeah, it's kind of like gaslighting yourself and bypassing
totally.
yourself. And then usually these come out in self-sabotaging tendencies. And I feel like that's why things rupture in a really diseaseful way, and it can get
totally ugly. And I'll be honest that I feel like I was taking out my frustration on me in like these very subtle ways. Like it's interesting how it's almost like we do self-sabotaging behaviors because we know deep down like something's not in alignment. And so I was noticing like the things that were happening, and I was like, okay, this definitely is a sign that something needs to change. So yeah.
You approached it like a queen.
I tried. No, I didn't try. I did it. I did it.
You did it.
Still doing it. It's still evolving, and now it's like fine tuning it. And yeah, as with anything, it's like our skills develop over time. And
yeah,
it's a practice.
Yeah, it's a refining process.
Yep.
Amazing. And how do you feel now? Because I know you went kind of through,
because I left when we were traveling, and we moved through all these big things and are still moving through it. Because I left and we haven't really been in our physical space, it's been actually challenging to know, okay, like when I do see him again, what is our relationship going to be like? Because I'm very much a energetic, kinesthetic person. Like I need to be in someone's energy to really feel like, okay, how do I want to relate to this person? So there is a lot of like unknown and uncertainty, but like I shared before, because there's this deep unconditional love between us, like I trust that whatever unfolds, it will be perfect. And yeah, well, might not always be perfect, but we're at this deep knowing that like we can move through anything, we can process through anything, and it'll be okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I meant though,
I didn't answer your question.
But I meant like,
so
how do you feel inside of your own body?
Yeah, I was gonna respond to that. I feel so much more freer and lighter, and like this heavy weight just like has lifted from my chest. Like I was just like carrying this weight for so long, and then now it's just like it feels like I can deeply breathe. Now I can have more clarity around my own personal direction and have a new perspective on like how I choose to relate to men, how I choose to relate to any new connections that show up. And yeah, really every intimate relationship that I have is like it's always like this deep learning lesson that I learned something from the relationship and I carry that on to like the next one. So each relationship just keeps getting better and better, in my opinion, which is such a beautiful thing to be able to experience.
Yeah, it's affirmation that we're growing up.
Yes.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Oh.
Deeper breaths, everyone.
Yes. I've been consciously being more aware of my breath when I speak, when I'm on podcasts like this, or even when I'm sharing vulnerably, like with a partner, just tuning into my body and like how I can be more relaxed in the moment and not try to like rush my way through anything or yeah, be afraid of the pauses.
Yeah.
Or the space in between.
Taking up space.
Yeah, taking up space.
Yeah. And a lot of, I feel like what keeps us from our truth is our cultural conditioning, and whether that's like, living in this patriarchal society of like rushing and not listening to our bodies, having to be productive and push through our body, our feelings, our emotions, and needing to achieve certain levels of quote unquote success. And these are all ways in which we can slowly over time get out of alignment and integrity with what really brings us joy and what lights us up and why we're here on this earth, why we came here. It's a huge mystery, but
Yes.
And so a lot of our cultural conditioning, it's a desire to be loved, to belong. And so it's a very real, genuine desires, but they easily get distorted because our society is really founded on control and greed, even if that's not really strongly present in the forefront of your consciousness, of your reality.
Mm-hmm.
These energies are still underlying and embedded in our nervous system. And so, yeah, to go back to be more specific about the ways in which I was feeling out of integrity, one of them was with definitely social media and time management, wanting to go more slowly throughout my life, be more intentional about my time and how I use my energy, and being more present. I think that's really my focus this year is what pulls me away from presence, and how can I really create structure, or I don't know if that's the right how I want
Habits.
to share that. Just have this more awareness and create healthy habits that help me to set me up for success, to be, and by success I mean to be more present and more kind, um, and to be a better listener, and to be less in my head and more in my heart, and also around security and fear of fear around money and not having enough money to pay the bills, things like that, and just the ways I was getting out of integrity with the energy of money, how I relate to money, how I spend money. That I think that's kind of the number one, those two in particular. But yeah, I was feeling like how much that was draining of my energy and my life force and of my presence, and coming from a single mom in a lineage of single moms who worked their asses off and didn't have support, from the men in their lives, and just feeling I was in when I did my teacher training, my Tao Tantric Arts teacher training in Costa Rica. We did a lot of tantric massage, but we did this one like knee pulsing, like where your back is flat on the floor, but your knees are bent and pointed towards the ceiling. The soles of the feet are on the ground, and someone's on the opposite near your feet, and they're kind of gently pulsing your knees. And kid you not, like I had this crazy emotional release, like just feeling into worthiness and abundance, and the lineage of the women in my family who suppressed their desires, the things that they wanted to do. Like for my aunt, that was like becoming a florist. And for my mom, that was being like an energy healer and massage therapist. And, their conditioning in their survival mechanisms led them to abandon their dreams and struggled with money, living paycheck to paycheck, and just feeling like really wanting to break free of that, but also feeling the grief of the women in my family and the abandonment as well. And, holding both like heartbreak and loss, and also like the hustle of like trying to provide for your family. So that is like purifying from my being you can probably relate.
Oh my gosh, yes. I also grew up with a lineage of exactly that. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because I feel like you have a little bit more closer relationship with your family and lineage, but like for example, like my mom and my grandmother, like I don't know their desires, like or their dreams or what they wanted to create, but didn't because of conditioning. And maybe they don't know because that conditioning is so ingrained that it doesn't even come to their mind. Like, what are my desires? Like I'm just in this automatic, like,
Autopilot.
scarcity
Yeah.
survival mode that part of their being is just and dead basically. And it's really sad to
Yeah.
see these women that I come from like not be aware of that like whatsoever, and to see how quite possibly that way of being like is passed down to me. And I feel like that's why we're in the work that we do, because we're so passionate about reclaiming that, because we see the power in that and how it transforms like our bodies and how we relate to pleasure. And yeah, it's so wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And back, I want to tie this in with pleasure. Thank you for sharing that, Janessa. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's the heartbreak and the sadness and the grief around our families is really strong. And it's really our responsibility now with the awareness that we have and the safe, largely collectively the safety a lot of us Western women have to feel these emotions. Like there's really no way around it. If we don't feel these emotions, process this trauma, like we won't be free. We won't be able to have experience pleasure. We're going to be very disconnected and numb. I heard this woman, Sabrina Lynn, say today, like, if you don't process these emotions, and I've said this before, our orgasmic pleasure is stuck behind layers and layers of blocked, frozen emotions. Like you never have a cervical orgasm or like really deep vaginal orgasms because of that numbness, that frozen energy that lives, in our womb, in our pelvic region as a whole. So that's why I think we're both passionate about the work that we do, and we help women move through and overcome and transform.
I have a little question.
Yes, please.
So you spoke to me privately about how integrity was showing up in your intimate relationship. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that. I mean, you don't have to share like micro details, but I'd love to, for our listeners to
this was a while ago. Okay.
hear your experience.
Okay. Well, first, before I get there, I wanted to tie something in to what we were sharing about the mother and our lineage connection. And some of you may know that my dog gave birth about 6 weeks ago to 9 beautiful puppies. And ever since, so I started my moon the same night as she was giving birth. And ever since that, it was actually at my mom's house. It was earlier than we imagined. And since literally that night, I felt so much rage and the feeling of unsafety come up, and rage against the masculine, not feeling held or cared for because of some things that arose in that situation. And that has gotten stronger. It's gone in waves. Like I just feel like this repressed like dark feminine energy and rage that has been coming up. And I'm just like, my partner's like, whoa, I'm like, whoa, where's this coming from? And I wrote a post that the feminine psyche is so deep and so vast and so mysterious. And, the dark goddess, that's why there's so many different incarnations of her. And that's learning to embrace our wholeness and these different parts of us that have been laying dormant but may come out at certain times, and learning to really love and accept those parts and create safety for them, learning how to reparent ourselves. And so recently she was doing fine, my dog, but then over the past weekend she got an infection in her mammary gland, she got mastitis, and then this like gnarly, like giant dead zone of like, it like looked like a bruise of like dark dead tissue essentially, and skin and cells that like literally abscess ruptured and fell off and left this gaping wound and cavity. And that same time that was happening, I just came out of an ayahuasca ceremony, and my partner woke me up to tell me that this had ruptured. And I went to pee, and simultaneously my womb and ovaries started burning, like the most intense pain I've ever felt. And still, it's been a few days. I still have pain, ovarian pain since then. And the point being is just like, there's so much trauma held in our wounds that is being released. And one of the women who was facilitating the circle, she's from Brazil, was saying to like take a flower bath. And I've been yoni steaming and working with the plant elements and allies, especially for women, like filling our lives with that beauty of the earth, and really shedding the trauma, things that are no longer serving us energetically and tangibly in our lives as well. But yeah, after reading this book, The Way of Integrity, I was like, yeah, I really want to go on an integrity cleanse. I really want, being a Leo, I feel like, I don't know, the word integrity and living a life of integrity really speaks to me, to my soul, to my cellular body. And so I really feel it when I stray from integrity. And in my relationship, there was just two things that over the course of 2 years that were out of integrity, that I was keeping a secret from my partner. And we're about to do a 3-month container. And so I'm like, told you that. So I'm like, I'm going to use this safe container to bring these things up, because if I do want to have, regardless of how they react, if that means that we separate, whatever that means, like at least I'm telling the truth and living in integrity. And that's really scary. But again, I would like the same. I would like to be treated the same, and treat your neighbor how you would like to be treated. And also I want a clean slate and healthy foundation to build my relationship on, if we, continue to raise a family and go deeper within our commitment. So that, thanks for bringing that up.
So yeah, like she's sliding away from sharing what I wanted her to talk about.
I'm glad that you were specific, because I totally forgot about that conversation.
And how did the lack of integrity like show up in your body? I'm curious.
I think too, like a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiousness, and I think all of this comes back to like healing my wounds around trust, like really trusting myself, trusting my co-creation with the universe, trusting that I'm always held and supported in every moment. I think a lot of that rage is feeling like I didn't have that container of safety, and growing up, and feeling like I was really emotionally like supported. Those are like, what I remember. So, and the feelings that arise, and the triggers that arise, that I feel like are related to around trusting others, and being safe. So it's, it's been really uncomfortable, and scary at times, like feel these feelings, but ultimately I know, like, again, I said this times like feels like a reckoning, because I feel like they're on the precipice of a rebirthing process. And yeah, ultimately I'm so grateful, because I know this is like what needs to take place and happen for me to really step into my true authentic power.
Yes.
Yeah.
So proud of you.
Thanks. Mm. We're doing amazing.
Yeah, I asked that question just because if someone may not know like how they are out, I mean, maybe you are living fully in alignment, but for those that are curious to ask themselves, like, how am I in out of integrity with myself? They may not know like how that shows up or what that can feel like in the body. And it seems like we have this correlation with anxiety and fear and yeah, making choices, choosing things out of a fear state. Would you say
So
that's
it's so alluring. Yeah. It's like
yeah,
kind of like the easy path.
yeah.
Um Again, because it's like what's familiar, even if it's not serving us or if it's unhealthy, it's still what's familiar. And yeah, I sat with an elder from the Ashaninka tribe over the weekend, did ayahuasca, and he is like kind of known as the Dalai Lama of the Amazon. He's planted over 8 million trees with the help of other amazing beings, but he was just talking about the world of, the devil to him is like the world of illusion, Maya, and not getting sucked into that, into the superficial, to materialism, consumerism, to greed, because that's what's creating so much suffering, our disconnection from the truth of our being, from the earth, from one another, the things that truly matter in life. And we've just strayed so far, and this is why the earth is really suffering at this time. So it's so much, it's about you, but it's like so beyond you, and really, like, we're really needing to make a radical shift into integrity.
Yes. Yeah, I've been really marinating on the topic of legacy. I'm doing this free 11-day event with Chelsea Huntsman. She's an incredible business mentor, and she really has brought light to my awareness this topic of legacy and integrity. And so that I just feel like there's this awakening in consciousness around how we're living and how that impacts not only like our personal life, but how the choices and the way we choose to embody affect generations to come. And really looking and seeing like, how do I want to be remembered by, and what are the choices that I want to make that affect future lineages. And yeah, I feel like being in integrity is a good segue to create that deep healing for people that are coming in from, or that are being birthed from into the future. It's hard for me to word that.
Yeah, integrity is the way I feel like to true freedom and joy. And Martha Beck really talks about like the simplest and one of the most challenging ways to do that is to not lie at all. And there's several different kinds of lying, like the black kind of lying. There's black, gray, and white lies, and black is more like the really enormous, like heinous crimes that people commit, or those, like murder or treason, or just big crimes. And then the gray lies are the ones that we tell to ourselves, and the white lies are like the little white lies and they often come with good intentions, you know, like there's a saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Like we sometimes we lie because we think that we're keeping the peace, or we lie because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But though all doesn't matter what kind of lie, they all hurt you, you know, they all come back to haunt you essentially. And that's autoimmune and different diseases that are manifested in the body, depression, anxiety, as we talked about before. Like, so that's an invitation to like see where you lie, even in little ways and big ways, and to really yeah, cut that shit out like a tumor. You know, I have like a ring, and I call it like my integrity ring, for those of you on the video can see it. And you know, having, my friend has like an integrity feather. Ari has an integrity feather. So yeah, if you have something that can remind you, you know, and writing your values down, knowing your values, knowing what you really stand for in your life, and those can be mutable and flexible. Like I think it's really important to review your values every, like quarterly, with every season, to see like, is this still resonant or in alignment with my truth in this moment? And but like to really use that as an anchor to ground you in integrity and your truth, values. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I feel like what you're just speaking to around our values changing, I think that's been super prominent for me, as I've held a lot of my identity and my worth around having certain values, and then when they change, I'm like, who am I? I don't even know who I am. But it's like, really, no, we're constantly changing and evolving, and it's okay for things to shift and for us to not be in alignment with certain things, because our natural way of being is cyclical. I always struggle to say that word.
Said it beautifully.
Yeah. Words are hard today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, yeah, don't put yourself in a box. Like, careful not to like create your identity around some certain things, because then it could be a tool against you, you know. It's all relative. But beautiful. I love that point that you made. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, this has been amazing. Was there anything else that you wanted to share around integrity?
I think I'm complete. I was gonna maybe ask, like, see if there's, I mean, you offered great tips for people that are wanting to get more clear of like what is an integrity with themselves. So
yeah, that's a lifelong.
yeah.
Those tips will take you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people don't really think about those things. So they're almost hand in hand with like boundaries. Like boundaries can shift and change. And
totally. Yeah, I was thinking that as you were saying that earlier. Well, thank you all for being here. We hope this serves and supports you in any way. And please come follow us on our social medias. I'm Love Legacy Coaching on my Instagram, and that's my website, lovelegacycoaching.com. Speaking of legacy, and I'm going to be doing another cohort of my group hybrid program. So it's group coaching. There's an online program as well as one-on-one coaching. And this is my 3-month container called Sensual Metamorphosis. I help empower women to heal and release sexual trauma. As well, I teach them how to self-pleasure in a really healing, sacred, powerful way. And then in the end of September, I'm doing a week-long live in-person retreat called the Goddess Odyssey Retreat, which we will be doing really powerful activation, embodiment work, trauma release. We'll be doing a medicine plant ceremony, doing things like a yoni puja ritual, yoni worship. it's going to be an activation in the Tao tantric arts, sacred sexuality, jade egg, so many good things. So come check out my website or message me if you have any questions. And I know Janessa also has some goodies for you.
Sign me up for all of the above. Yeah, so you also can find me on Instagram. My handle is Janessa Dalalana, and we will leave the description and links to all those things that Samantha and I mentioned. And right now, I am working one-on-one mentoring women, and there are many different segues we can go within this space, but this space is for women that are wanting to tune in to their body's wisdom, body's intelligence, and I lead women through embodiment practices and teach women how to use archetypes to be able to strengthen their ability to tap into their sexuality, their sensuality, and just their expression in the world. And so if you are curious in exploring and journeying with me, I would love to get to know you and chat more with you. All right.
Janessa is the living, breathing example of a beautiful woman who has literally transformed herself, and it's so beautiful. I love all your wisdom that you've acquired just by being and living the life that of path of truth. And so highly recommend working with Janessa.
Thank you. Soul sister.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We will see you next week. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Aloha.